community is up in arms about something that Jin recently said during a recent live stream. We also have people upset or protesting JK and his potential solo tour amidst a new message that he apparently gave, as well as BTS being unfollowed. So Dumplings is Dave Disci, let's get into it. There's recently been a lot of attacks and hate towards what is going on with BTS as well as other groups and their scandals. This conversation started as a lot of alleged BLACKPINK fans were trying to berate or bring up BTS's past scandals or controversies. And this is the interesting thing about K-pop and their artists, and specifically their set of controversies. Controversies are going to exist regardless because the industry of K-pop was built around Black culture and Afro beats. Things that you might consider racist or cultural appropriation are not things that were taken into consideration when creating some of the music that we hear in K-pop, just even several years ago. Of course, now the industry is a lot more sensitive to these things, and of course, language barriers and cultural barriers between Korea and America are things that are going to be very different and could also play into this idea of racism. Something that might not seem like a big deal to someone who doesn't know the cultural implications, but also the historical implications of something that happens in the US can result in them seeming insensitive about it simply just because they don't know about it. And of course, this is something that if explained, typically they would apologize for, the artist and anyone in K-pop would apologize for, because it was genuinely a mistake, and they wouldn't like it if someone else were to take something that was a historic pain point for their culture in their country and just make fun of it or wear it or whatever, right? So these are all the controversies that BTS has gotten into in the past and things that they've worn that have upset people, but they've also outwardly apologized for it. Either they themselves have done it or their team has apologized for it. For me, I absolutely love BLACKPINK, and they're definitely one of my top favorite groups that I listen to on the regular. I think their music is very fun to listen to, and of course, just like everyone else, I wish they had more music. But I will say a lot of their controversies that they've been in, especially the recent ones that showed several of the members allegedly saying the N-word during their pre-debut audition videos. Those things were never addressed. They were never addressed by them, I don't believe, and they were not addressed by the label. At least not one that I could find, nor one that I believe was very much widely known. You would hope that if they apologized, that it would be widely known. And in my opinion, that's the difference between the two situations that we have where BTS has essentially addressed a lot of the issues, if not all of the issues that they have that were actual racial issues. And of course, this doesn't mean that the girls of BLACKPINK don't take those accusations seriously or don't believe that there is actually something wrong with what was said. But it just means that if the label is telling them to not address something, or if the label isn't putting out a statement or asking them for one, they simply can't just go about doing that. And I've come to the defense of the girls many times before. This was simply just a different time period than one that we have now, where back then saying the N-word was socially acceptable by a lot of different people. And you can go back and you'll see that so many people said the N-word. The fact that there is a scandal every other day of someone saying the N-word should tell you that back then this was not a phrase that people shielded away from. But at a certain point, we moved away from that and socially it became unacceptable. However, the fact that so many people have said this should at least be some sort of time marker or artifact that we can look into and say, hey, maybe it was socially acceptable at the time to say it, because why else is almost the whole world saying it? Many people were saying that due to this controversy and a lot of BTS's controversy being brought up, they are getting mass unfollowed because a lot of the people who have newly started following the boys aren't aware of these said controversies, with a thread on X basically saying that they were going to expose BLACKPINK and their controversies due to the fact that BTS was being exposed unprovoked. I mean, sure, I guess, do what you need to do, but what exactly is the point of this? Like, what do you gain off of having both groups now be hated? Like, is that the goal? Because all this seems to me is to be an admission of guilt, where instead of sitting there and defending those accusations and saying, well, they've addressed this, blah, 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 all that stuff, and instead you're attacking another group. And here's the thing, none of these things are not publicly known. So literally anyone can Google any of these accusations or scandals and find it. But the defense of those accusations and scandals are not easily Googleable. So why not make it by actually defending them and saying that? I don't know, just my opinion. Perhaps I'm very ignorant, and a lot of people make that very well known, that I don't know what I'm talking about. So let me know if I don't. These are just my thoughts. And of course, it seems like Jin has recently been getting into a little bit of trouble over a live stream that he did recently. There was a segment that was broken down and talked about where he allegedly addressed what it was like to be an idol, and specifically the weight that an idol should be. He spoke about the fact that an idol needs to be skinny and that he sees idols as skinny. So when he was working out with his other BTS members, he noticed that they were all trying to bulk up and get bigger, and he was like, no, we need to be skinny and a little bit more scrawny, and that tends to be what an idol is. I think this was a little bit shocking to people. One, because obviously as an idol, you're setting an example, but the example that he would be setting here would be that you should be really skinny. And the thing is, idols are not just looked at as someone who is really talented and a celebrity, but they're seen as the people to aspire to be. So a lot of people are going to look at the body types of those people and say, well, I want to be that too. And the bottom line is, a lot of idols are starving themselves to achieve a certain level of thinness that would not be sustainable nor possible for the everyday person. A lot of people in the community are also very young and aren't fully aware or can fully comprehend the idea that an idol is starving themselves only during the promotional periods. And once that period is over, they're eating again like regular, and typically will gain a little bit of that weight back and rinse and repeat for the promotion cycle. So then these younger people are going to think that they need to be hungry 24/7 for the rest of their life just to look this good, because that's what they think their idols are doing. So that's obviously not great. But of course, I want you to know that a lot of this is translated from Korean to English, and some people have said that the translation is completely wrong. And he didn't say this. But a lot of the comments saying that haven't actually explicitly said what he actually did say. So without another translation available, who actually knows what was said? And I do want everyone to take all of this with a grain of salt, because again, there can be a translation error there. And of course, if you speak Korean, let me know. But that's not all. We also have people really upset over a photo that was taken with JK at the gym, and he was holding a Starbucks drink. If you don't know the history or why people are protesting Starbucks right now, I'll give you a quick rundown about this. I gotta be honest, I doubt some of the people online who are angry at JK holding a Starbucks in this picture are even fully aware of what the actual story is. So from my research, Starbucks allegedly sued someone from the union who was very pro-Palestine. Now from the lawsuit, it was clear, if you looked into that, Starbucks was aiming to be more neutral, and they didn't want to represent either pro-Palestine or pro-Israel. They just did not want to be a part of this, and were suing to basically not be a part of it, because the union would then represent them, I think, right? Theoretically, this is the idea. That, of course, is controversial on its own, as a lot of people who want to be neutral and have a neutral stance are also then seen as pro the side that the person doesn't like. So if the person is like, oh, I don't like people who are pro-Gaza and pro-Israel, you're going to start to see Starbucks as that, because you then see them as neutral, and you're going to say, well, they're probably just not admitting that they're pro-Palestine or pro-Israel. And those who are pro-Israel, pro-Palestine are going to think that Starbucks is the other side, because they're not addressing it. So being neutral is also seen as controversial here too. However, I do want to address that the whole point of this was for them to be neutral. They did not want to get involved at all. This then caused controversy, as a lot of people took it that Starbucks was pro-Israel and wanted to do a lot of the bad things that they're accusing of this whole situation to be, because Starbucks is allegedly pro-Israel, right? And they asked the label to educate their idols on what they can and cannot promote, because they don't want people to buy from Starbucks anymore, and they don't want their favorite idols to give money to Starbucks anymore, right? People like to specifically reference the BDS movement, where they have a list of businesses and brands that they believe that you should protest, such as brands like Disney, McDonald's, Burger King, Dell, HP, etc. There's a lot of brands on this list, and this list is coming from the US Campaign for Palestinian Rights. So this is a complete organization that was built to help Palestinian rights. And this list is coming from that website. I just want to make that clear, that I'm not just pulling this list out of my butt. This list actually does not include Starbucks. So I just want to make that clear. It does not include Starbucks. So all of the comments that are saying, oh, HYBE, you need to educate your idols, it seems like they have. Starbucks was never part of that list. Now that might sound strange to you, because why did the protest get so big then? And a lot of people believe it's because they wanted other people to be a part of the protest or the movement. Apparently a lot of other races dislike Starbucks, and in order to get those races support for this pro-Palestine movement, because a lot of other races would not be affected by this movement or would not have any business to be part of this movement, someone had attempted to bring Starbucks in to get those other races on their side for this movement. Now that's just a theory, that's just a conspiracy theory really. I don't know how true that is at all. Other people have mentioned things like, if JK bought Starbucks in Korea, Korea's Starbucks system or franchise is not part of the official Starbucks company that we have in the US. They have sold off their Korean section. And then other people have said, well, how do we know that JK is in Korea? And then that argument falls flat, right? However, because he could not be. However, I haven't seen anyone give the argument that I have just given, which is in fact that they are not actually on the list. So let me know what you think. Let me know what your thoughts are. Make sure you check out Patreon. I'll leave a link at the top of the description. I think it's just a lovely comment right here. Love you. Bye.